Good morning. I'm your host, Laura Bagenkenest, owner of Mosaic Business Consulting, and you're listening to the Mosaic Life. Mosaic is a bunch of pieces that, when put together, make up that whole in a really beautiful way. And this show plans to discuss the various pieces of a business throughout different industries and how these pieces, when put together, can help develop a better, more efficient, and effective running of your business. So to reach me, contact bizradio.us. Today, my guest is none other than Teresa Wilcox. And maybe the name doesn't sound too familiar, but you'll get to know her. She's fantastic. In addition to being the owner of Mountain Laurel Accounting Solutions, based in Mars Hill, North Carolina, Teresa also provides coaching to Mountain BizWorks clients. And Teresa has more than 25 years of experience as an accounting manager and controller. And this means that she is well aware of the bookkeeping and financial analysis required to help the businesses she works with. She has been helping businesses to start effectively and worked with established businesses to develop systems and approaches to their bookkeeping to ensure a seamless and smooth process. I really want to welcome you to the show, Teresa. It is so good to have you on the show right now. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Oh, it's great. And, I am kind of curious because accounting sounds so boring. And my father was a CFO, so I get it. But I'm curious, why go into accounting? What promoted you to, or what made you decide to go into accounting in the first place?
Well, growing up, my father had a John Deere dealership. And so during the summer, we worked in the office with him and did filing and inventory and billed customers. And so learning business techniques and running a business from my father, then as I graduated school and got involved, I took some accounting classes and decided that bookkeeping was what I wanted to do. So that's how I started. Yeah, getting into the bookkeeping, and then it just went from there. And
What's
worked with.
attractive to you about this bookkeeping? I'm curious, like the ledgers, are those the excitement for you? Making sure that there's not one penny off, or what's the deal?
Yeah, a penny will drive me crazy.
Oh, I totally get it. Totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's just rewarding to see all the numbers reconcile. And when run the numbers, and sometimes people have very complex financials and to get everything to reconcile. And it's the art of accounting. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's an art, all right. Yeah. So I am, and so you went into it because of your dad, but now you've been doing it for 25 years. Did you ever get bored with that? I mean, what kept you motivated doing financial analysis?
Yeah.
For me, it's like a torture, but do tell.
Well, every business is different and unique. And so when I worked for a business for 20 years, and they grew and expanded, and to see that and be a part of that. And then also, in past jobs since then, every business is different. And so that's unique to me, and it gets me excited, so maybe a retail or maybe service, or just a different business, and it has a whole different structure. So yeah, it's everything is unique and different, and it's not the same. Even though we're looking at the same numbers and the same reports, it's all different. And as long as it's all put together correctly and efficiently, then yeah, the numbers work. And I can tell you how to effectively run your business and make business decisions based on those numbers. Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that these numbers tell a story about the business performance.
Correct.
And its management or administration. Correct. Okay. And so you're telling me that if the business owner is making poor decisions in one arena, it doesn't mean that the business is failing. It might mean that this arena or this area needs to be fixed. And what does that look like?
Correct. And
give me an example of that? Yeah.
Yep. So if the data is accurate and if we can gain financial clarity through the numbers, that is tremendous for a business owner, because then they can make decisions based on the numbers. if they are working with you, for instance, on a business plan and they want to grow their business by 20% over the next 2 years, well, if you know your business cycles and you know your numbers, then you can plan for the next 2 years and do projections and see where you want to be, as well as also compare to past history. And so that you can see, okay, well, usually I'm busy March through September, and then it drops off during the holidays. And so if I'm going to grow my business, I know, March through September, I am going to have to do ABC in order to accomplish that. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it helps business owners to know whether they need to hire more employees or know if they have different facets of the business where they need to focus on. Maybe this division of the business is not as profitable as the other, or maybe this division of the business is successful 6 months out of the year, but then you need to have another part of that, another facet of that business to offset the other 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you talked about the cycle, the business cycle, because there are so many businesses, especially in this tourist area, where the tourism allows for growth of a business during the tourist season, if you will. And that can pretty much run from, April through the end of November. And at the same time, you also then have the holidays, right? But then that means January, February, March, and part of April, usually, they don't have any business or limited business. And so you're talking about a cycle where they would earn nothing, but they have to take those earnings they've got from the other 9 months and move that forward to sustain them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And plan it, do some planning and projections.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people too, they want to buy inventory, and but then you have to plan that. You wouldn't want to buy a lot of inventory right before your tourist season is going out, and now you've got 3 months, 4 months worth of inventory sitting there that is not producing sales. So
So true.
It's a tool, and if people can see it as a tool, the financials, the cash flows, the projections are all tools for them to effectively run their business. And then
my apologies, keep going.
That's all right. And so
go ahead.
I want them to be able to see that and accurately knowing that the books are always up to date. Each month you can see your performance and gain that clarity, and like I said, be able to make financial decisions for your business based on those numbers.
I really like that. And so they get a dashboard of some kind that tells them information. And boy, that's helpful, because it's one thing to have your numbers. It's another to interpret those numbers and what they mean. And that's where I hear you saying you come in to do that. I'm also curious, and so I'd like to talk about that, the interpretation of numbers, but that sort of piggybacks off a question I have about what do you think it is that people are so afraid of? Of a lot, I'm sure you've seen this, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of newer entrepreneurs are terrified or feeling less than smart, if you will, about the numbers and how to use those numbers to build their business. So what do you do in that circumstance to work with somebody who's afraid of the numbers, or I wasn't good at math, to, and use that and then show them how to interpret? How do you work with all that?
Exactly. So a lot of business owners, they want to run their business. And if I'm a baker, I can make all the cookies and the cakes and everything. But when it comes time to sit down and do the checkbook, they are stressed, and they're just like, I don't, I do it all in my head. I know that I've got payroll next week, and as long as I have X amount of dollars, I'm okay. But they don't, it just physically stresses them. And so they just keep pushing it aside and pushing it aside. And one day I'm going to do it. And then that day comes and it has to be done. And then it's overwhelming, because, I think the big stressor for business owners is, number one, the time that's involved. And number two, just not understanding it. And so, just even setting up a report over the chart of accounts and setting up the correct income and expense accounts so that they can know if they're profitable, and understanding, how assets and liabilities affect their profits, and just making strategic planning for your business. But I work with them. Part of what I do with Mountain Biz as a financial coach is teaching them. And so I try to set everything up. I listen and learn their business, because I want to understand their business and how it operates, so that then I can say, okay, this is the structure, the financial structure you need for your business. And then I can set them up in the accounting software, create their chart of accounts, and show them. Some business owners want to be involved. They're like, teach me. I want to know, how this works and what you're doing. And others are like, just do it and send me the reports at the end of the month. And, just talk to me once every quarter and tell me if I'm doing good or not. And so, but the ones that do want to be involved and want to understand, genuinely want to understand, and know that if they increase sales, or if they are able to buy that product from someone else and save 20 cents per item, what that reflects in profit when they sell it. And so the return on investment. But yeah, so I try to educate them as well, and so that they can understand the numbers. But using those tools, if I'm a baker, I want them to understand their break-even points and their profit margins, and know that if it costs me $5 to make this batch of cookies, what do I need to sell them for? And then, are they good for the next 5 days, or is it something I got to make every day? Or so knowing that, and what your costs are, so that you can do a return on investment and work the numbers.
Well, and what you're talking about now, I think, is where some of the people get confused with the terminology. Because when you're talking about the cost, you're talking about what the business owner pays for those items that either assist them in making the item, or is the cost of the good itself that they're going to resell, right?
Correct.
So it's the cost versus price versus charge, or
yes.
And so the price is what the person's going to pay. And then the expense is what you pay in fixed or variable costs. Well, fixed costs.
Well, there's two kinds. There's two kinds of costs, fixed or variable, and it depends on your business. Yeah.
It does depend on your business. That's why I just caught myself. I was like, oh, no, wait. And then the other part of that is the taxes too. And you have income taxes, and you have sales taxes, and you have, FUTA and SUTA and workers' comp, and,
payroll taxes. And
right.
Yeah.
So maybe, if you don't mind, could you provide at least some clue of what these items are that might help our audience understand that kind of terminology that helps us then determine that break-even point that you're talking about, which means basically how many units do you need to sell of whatever it is you're selling before you break even, and then can make a profit beyond that, right? That's what we're talking about, break even.
You're exactly right. Yes. So yeah, I think it's very important for a business owner to know their overhead cost, so that they know that I've got to, at least my overhead cost is 10%, and I need to at least have 10% on anything I sell. So if I pay $5 for something, I need to have a 10% markup on it, just to cover overhead. And then also knowing some of the hidden cost. So taxes and some of the shelf life costs. Is that product going to sit there for 2 months before I maybe sell it, or is it something that's going to be a quick turnover? And so also knowing your industry and your products, to know, if I have these 10 products or these 10 services that I offer, 2 of these are always steady. I'm always going to do these, but these other items aren't. So knowing your inventory, your products, your services, knowing your overhead cost, and then working the numbers backwards so that
Yeah.
you can then realize, okay, if I want to make this and I have to buy, I don't know, chocolate, and I can get chocolate from these 3 suppliers.
You're making me
Um,
hungry.
yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about cookies. I don't know why I'm
I
talking
know, you
cookies. I
shouldn't
must
be
want
doing that.
one. um, but yeah, talking about the different places you can buy chocolate, and then do I buy it in bulk versus, going to the store and just buying 5 chocolate bars, and just knowing your products and your cost. And then there's the variable cost and the fixed cost that are involved, and the costs that you can control and the things that you can't control.
Mhm.
So yeah, that I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully that helps them to kind of understand. Yeah,
Well,
that
in
would be
particular, you're talking about fixed and variable costs. I think that's where people get a little confused and feel like, oh, it's overwhelming, all this terminology. But the truth is a fixed cost would be something like your rent that is the same rent every month.
you
That's a
got
fixed
it.
cost. And a
Yeah,
variable cost might be if you have a food truck or you have a restaurant, perishable goods are variable in what you pay for them because one month tomatoes cost this much, next month they might cost you this much because they're either A, not in season and need to be transported farther. So you're paying for transportation costs in addition to that. Not that you personally are, but the company that's the vendor that's giving them to you might be paying
exactly.
that. And they're going to pass that cost on to you. And then
You're
you pass
exactly
it
right.
on to the customer. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
you're exactly right. Tariffs or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's yes. Yeah, you have no control over.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It is what it is. Yeah. It's like
Yes.
lumber 1 minute was fine. And then
Exactly.
the next minute it was through the roof. I mean, it was literally insane. 10
Yeah.
times the cost.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, so the home builders and contractors that were building homes, can you imagine? They
Yeah.
gave an estimate and they go, "Oh, well, that one's scrapped." You
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
so to that end, right now we're in, Western North Carolina has been through a little bit of a humdinger of a thing known as Hurricane Helene, and we don't have a whole lot of time, a couple minutes at most, but just curious in the short time we have, one, how has it impacted your business if it has? And then two, what do you know that we could do differently as businesses to prepare for something like this? I know that's a big
Mhm.
loaded question. So if you can't answer in 2 minutes, I get it. But yeah.
Well, I think one thing is it I have had minimal impact from it. When COVID hit, I think it was a shift for a lot of businesses,
Oh
and
yeah.
they realized, everybody's working remote. And I think it was a big shift because people realized, hey, the bookkeeper can be remote with all the online banking and QuickBooks Online. Everything can be remote. Most of accounting softwares now are online.
Mm,
And with direct deposits, you don't have to cut checks anymore. And so I think business owners are realizing that there is a shift, and the bookkeeper doesn't need her own office and overhead. And so I think that has a lot of business owners are more confident in that and more trusting, and they still want to know that I'm involved and talk to me and see me, but yet they realize that that does not have to be in the office environment. And so but businesses that have been impacted, it's awful. It is such a tragedy to see
mm,
businesses that have been established for 15 plus years that are now gone,
mm,
and it's tragedy. But I think right now there's a lot. Well, I say a lot, it's a shift as well for the businesses. They just need to regroup, figure things out. And I know, I can't imagine what's going through their heads, here everything is gone.
mm, mm.
So what is rebuilding looking like, and adapting? We all just have to adapt to the new way, because it's not like tomorrow everything's going to be back to normal. This is going to take years.
Yeah, yeah.
So adapting to what a new new Asheville or new Hot Springs is going to look like. And funding, there's some funding options and grants. I think they're working on some grants. Obviously, if you can get grants, that's the number one way to go rather than borrowing money. But
Yeah.
if you have to borrow money, in the short term, but
Well,
you're
Mountain BizWorks has loans. The Small Business Administration has loans.
yeah.
There are some avenues. Western Women's Business Center, which has the Carolina Small Business Development Fund, has loans. So there's a
Yes.
variety of mechanisms, I think, in place.
And I think a lot of the chambers also offer financing.
Yeah,
Yes.
Asheville Chamber is offering a Bunkum One fund or something to help people. So let me ask you this: if people want to find out about your business and how they can reach you, if they need your services, how can they contact you?
Sure. So my website is mountainlaurelsolutions.com or mountainlaurelaccounting.com. I'm sorry. My
That's
email my email is mountainlaurelsolutions@outlook.com. And my phone number is 828-450-9780. I have a Facebook page, but I'm located in Mars Hill. And, I know we're coming towards the end of the year, so everybody's thinking about their finances, need to do some tax strategies for their business and prepare for end of year. Now's the time to do it. So yeah,
Nice.
I think it's a great time to get started on your bookkeeping.
Yeah, it is definitely fourth quarter, time to get it together. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Teresa. This is so informative and helpful, I think, for so many people. So I really appreciate all your time and your expertise. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Laura. It's been great. And I'm glad to be a part of your podcast. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and I want to thank you, the audience, for listening to The Mosaic Life. You can listen to this episode again and get great content or get additional great content and by other hosts by going to bizradio.us and click on shows. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.